Wish you could become a morning person? You know the type, up before the sun, early morning runs, first one to the office with donuts and a smile. How do they do it? Easy. With the new Galaxy Watch 8, sleep tracking and personalized insights from Samsung Health help you improve so you can wake up to a whole new you. One who, dare I say it, skips the snooze? It's possible. Train your sleep with Galaxy Watch 8. Learn more at Samsung.com. Requires compatible Samsung Galaxy phone, Samsung Health app, and Samsung account.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold, soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to There Can Only Be One, the podcast that puts together the all-star best of playlist of your favorite bands and artists. Hello to all of our listeners in Espoo, Finland, and around the world. How the heck are you guys doing? So, if you listen to this podcast enough, you know that we like to wax nostalgic about great Canadian bands that emerged during the 90s, because let me tell you, the 90s Canadian alt-rock scene was second to none. And for the next probably about half hour or so, we're going to be speaking moistly. And if you're Canadian, you already know the joke. And if you're not, just look up Speaking Moistly, and I'm sorry. But here to join me for this exercise in wetness, that sounds so bad. Ooh. Joseph Whalen is back on the show. Oh, man. Apparently, the show is off the rails already. Joseph, welcome back. How you doing, man?
I'm good, Jason. I'm happy to be back with you. And yeah, we're off to a flying start here. I mean, an exercise of wetness. That is that is certainly a tagline for a podcast. And honestly, you know what? Full credit to those guys, because there are so many people. The thing that I find funniest about them is people hate that word so much.
I'm glad you brought it up.
There are some people that hate that. I never I was like, whatever. But some people hate that word.
I used to know someone, and it was like, anytime you said the word moist, they would actually have a physical reaction to it. Right. And then, of course, you do nothing but say moist the entire time. And for those of you who don't like the word moist, there you go. You're welcome. But yet here we have a band that took one of the most hated words in the English lexicon and turned it into a fantastic collection of albums. So obviously, Joseph, Canadian 90s music, that's definitely your wheelhouse. Anyone who listened to our Sloan episode knows that for sure. Moist, were they on your radar?
They were not, actually, Jason. This was one that you suggested, much like the Melanie Doan episode, which was a huge one for me that I was very happy to have done, because that was one that I didn't know anything of Melanie Doan, to be honest. I knew more of Moist. It's kind of like, this is one of those ones, Jason, and the Northern Pikes were like this to an extent, which was also one that you kind of, was a suggestion of yours that I was like, oh yeah, I know a couple of their songs. I'll be happy to do that one. This one was one that I was like, you know what? I'm really happy for the CRTC regulations that we have to, there's a certain quota of Canadian songs per hour. And you know what? We're better off for it, because there's so many great songs out there, and Moist has a lot of them. They have so many. And I was surprised actually by the amount that I did know. And some of the ones that kind of harken back to some of their earlier stuff that I was like, oh yeah, I kind of like this. It kind of has that very moist sound to it, Jason.
Yeah.
Very moist.
Yeah. Right now, literally, people are cringing while listening to this episode. But hopefully they're not going to cringe when we start talking about the music. So here's what we're going to do. We're going through all 5 Moist studio albums. It's never not going to be funny. It really isn't.
It's going to be a point where we say it where one of us doesn't chuckle, but until that time, it's going to be great.
Right? Think of this as like a desensitization therapy process, because you know what? We're going to say it enough times that eventually people are going to be like, okay, I can handle the word now. We are not covering any of David Usher's solo albums. We're also not covering Machine Punch Through, which was their greatest hits album, even though there was a secondary disc that did have some of their soundtrack songs and fan club singles on it. Not touching that. We're just sticking with the 5 studio albums. And we're going to start with Silver, released February 8th, 1994. The band at this point is David Usher, Jeff Pierce, Mark McAway, Kevin Young, and Paul Wilcox. Hit number 12 on the Canadian album charts. It is 4 times platinum in Canada. There were 5 singles. Silver charted the highest in Canada, hitting number 9 up here in the Great White North. And Push charted in the States, hitting number 37. At the 1995 Junos, Moist won for Best New Group. Push was nominated for Single of the Year, but lost to Could I Be Your Girl by Jan Arden. And Push was also nominated for Best Video, but lost to Tunnel of Trees by Go Van Gogh, a band I had never heard of until this episode. Could I Be Your Girl? I can understand winning Single of the Year. Jan Arden was huge. But yeah, Moist winning Best New Group, I'm not surprised because they were freaking huge that year. And I remember when they exploded on Much Music, it was absolutely a thing. But off this album, what's your pick?
Yeah, so this was one where I think you teed it up perfectly because Push, you start off with that one as the lead track and you're immediately like, oh yeah, this is the good stuff. This is exactly what you want to hear to get you into an album. Then you got Believe Me. Like the short list for this album, I think was like basically the entire thing. Like it was such a great album, start to finish. And I have to give a specific shout out to Kevin Young, because I came into this, the keyboardist, piano guy, I came into this with the expectation of what I was going to get from Moist on a full-length album. And honestly, it kind of flipped on its head because the piano underneath in all of these songs steals the show for me in a lot of them. I ended up kind of copping out. I went with Silver because like that hook, man, incredible. And I love how they tease it with the pre-chorus part at around 55 seconds. They don't resolve it there. You're hanging on every single word and every single note until 20 seconds later when you finally get the resolution to it. You finally get that hook, and it's so satisfying. It is such a great hook. And honestly, yeah, I think that plain and simple, I think Silver, it's the title track. It is incredible. And as you said, it did chart the highest out of any of the singles off of this record in Canada, at the very least. Makes sense because this song is absolutely unbelievable, but some great ones on this one though.
Oh yeah, I mean, I remember when the Push music video came on Much Music, whole thing black and white, like just one long camera dolly shot kind of thing where David Usher is actually on the dolly and the camera, like the whole thing's wheeling down until it gets into this little almost circle pit where they're playing in the middle. Freaking-tastic video. Let me go through the singles off of this one. Push, Silver, Believe Me, Machine Punch Through, and Freaky Be Beautiful. All freaking killer songs. This whole album, to me, is a short list. It's really hard to pick just one.
Oh, truly, it is. I mean, like, I got near the bottom of this Shrieking Love. I was like, this song, man, the piano was incredible. Just a straight up banger. And that's the second last tune on the album. This is where it's like, in most cases, you're kind of winding down a little bit. You're kind of like, okay, like you can kind of see that, you know, they had a lot of great songs up the top. Like you expect that with an album. Like, you know, sometimes you're going to get a little bit lower quality near the bottom of the order kind of thing. It happens that way. That's just kind of how it goes. Not this album. This album,
no.
Machine Punch Through. I mean, Picture Elvis. Unbelievable.
Yet in all of that, one song we haven't really talked about is actually my pick off of this one.
Oh.
And that's Break Her Down. This is track 6 on the CD, but there's a little bit. See, you're giving Kevin Young all the kudos, and justly so. Jeff Pierce on bass, however. Like, there are some songs where he just absolutely shines and rules everything. And that's not to take anything away from Paul Wilcox on drums or Mark McAway on guitar or, David Usher on vocals or whatever.
Yeah.
But for me, Break Her Down, there's these little moments with the bass, like even coming out of the chorus where it's like, dun, 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 and it's like, oh my God, this is such a cool little exit riff getting into back into the verse. Something about Break Her Down, even if you find the song Morphine, which is actually the hidden track after Low, 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 and it's basically a slowed down version of Break Her Down. Fast or slow, this song is killer.
Yeah, I'm Jason, you know me, and we've talked about this before, and it's nothing against bass players. I love bass players. I have a hard time picking up bass when I'm listening to a song because it's just something that I'm not listening for right away. But then when I listen to something over and over again, then I kind of get more of an appreciation for the bass part because, again, it holds everything together. There is a song later on in the catalog, and I forget which one specifically, but I have it in my notes that it's just such a grooving bass that I noticed it straight away. Like, it's something that picked up with me. Like, the piano was there, the bass was there. And I think it's a song where I think those are the only two things that start, if I'm not mistaken. And again, it's one of those things that everybody plays their part extraordinarily well. And I think that you're right to shout out each individual member because the ensemble performance throughout in this entire catalog is fantastic.
Oh, yeah. And I also want to give you a bit of a picture here on the music scene of like 1994 and those 1995 Junos. So I mentioned that Moist won Best New Group. Also nominated that year, Farmer's Daughter, The Gandharvas, Wild Strawberries, and Big Sugar.
Big Sugar.
Yeah, like this this was a fantastic freaking year. Even the nominees for Group of the Year, like Tragically Hip won Group of the Year that year, but you also had Bare Naked Ladies, Crash Test Dummies, Spirit of the West, and The Watchmen. That is just a who's who of awesome 90s Canadian rock.
Yeah, that is basically, that's like the Hall of Fame. That's basically, those are the guys. This is the Legends Row right there.
Oh, absolutely.
When I queue up the Doors' first album that could help inspire a new podcast episode, I need gear that pulls me right into that warm LA haze. That's why I use the Andover Spin Duo. It's everything you need. Turntable plus Spin Bass 2 speaker, high fidelity sound, no cheap plastic. Fun, easy, even comes with a remote. And it works with Bluetooth devices too. Pantheon listeners, you get 15% off at andoveraudio.com/Pantheon. Do your records justice.
Membership means more with American Express Business Gold. Earn 4 times membership rewards points in your top 2 eligible spending categories every month, including eligible U.S. advertising purchases and select media, and U.S. purchases at restaurants, including takeout and delivery. What are you waiting for? Get the card that flexes with your spending every month. Terms and points cap apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-gold. Amex Business Gold Card. Built for business by American Express.
No one should have to choose between their own safety and their pets. But nearly half of domestic abuse survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Purina is helping to create more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters through the Purple Leash Project, so survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit Purina.com/purple to learn more.
Creature, released October 1st, 1996, hit number 7 on the Canadian charts and is triple platinum in Canada. There are 4 singles off of this one. Leave It Alone hit highest on the Canadian charts, hitting number 3, and Resurrection hit number 4 on the Canadian rock and alt-rock charts. At the 1997 Junos, they were nominated for Group of the Year, but they lost to the Tragically Hip, as one is going to do to the Tragically Hip. Paul Northfield actually won Best Recording Engineer for Leave It Alone and Another Sunday, which of course was written and performed by I Mother Earth. And at the 1998 Junos, they were nominated for Best Album, but lost to Surfacing by Sarah McLachlan. But listen to this. Also nominated were Clumsy by Our Lady Peace and Come On Over by Shania Twain. So, again, another fantastic year in Canadian music. They were nominated for Rock Album of the Year, but lost to Clumsy by OLP. But Gasoline won for Best Music Video. So, You've heard of the sophomore slump, right?
Yeah.
When a band comes out and their first album does really, really well and wins awards and all that, and then all the pressure is on because there's that old saying, you have your entire life to write your first album, and then you probably only have about a year to write the second album. But Creature takes the idea of the sophomore slump and blows it out of the water. So I'm going to ask you, before we even get to our picks, Desert Island, you can have one or the other. You can have Silver or Creature. Which album are you grabbing?
Ooh-wee. Oh gosh, that's I think on the overall, I would have to say Silver because, well, Silver, and then there's other ones in there as well. Like there's other fantastic songs, but like, oh God, Creature's so good too. It's a hard one. It's a really difficult question, Jason, but I think I would have to lean more towards Silver than Creature. But you are absolutely right that the mythology of a sophomore slump, it just gets completely taken out of out of the field with this album because they pick up right where they left off in every conceivable way. But I'll turn the question back to you, Jason. What say you?
I think I'm going with Silver as a whole album, but I will point out, so this album starts with the song Hate, and it's a very bassy, slow groove, kind of like almost dark, haunting kind of vibe. And I remember I was worried when I, got the CD, came home, put it on, and I hear this and like, oh, they went dark. And instantly I was also thinking of, in hindsight, you compare it to bands like Seven Mary 3, where American Standard comes out, and of course that's got Cumbersome on it and Water's Edge, and it's got some killer rock tracks. And then they came out with Rock Crown. It is a moody as F album, but I freaking love that album.
Right.
It's almost like the opposite of the Counting Crows, where August and Everything After comes out and everything's got a mood to it. And then you get Recovering the Satellites, and they kick it off with two like killer songs. Like, ooh, okay, they got some energy. But this is a much more diverse album than Silver, I find.
I think I agree with that. And I think that it actually, in a lot of ways, it pushes it towards a point where in an album we are going to talk about is a sound that I really like from them, that I think kind of like it was a really cool evolution over the period of albums. And I think this was kind of, exactly to your point. It took me a little bit. I will be honest. Creature kind of like it was a slower burn for me. But once it gets to where it gets to, then you're really, you're in the gravy.
All right. So off of this sophomore disc, what did you go with?
I went with Tangerine because it feels like we got the strings to start out with, which automatically, as soon as a band inserts strings, Creature has horns on it. Like, I love the extra. Like, that is something that is consistent with me throughout any band. As soon as you add extra stuff, I'm like, oh, okay, we got this now. That's cool. It really piqued my interest. But Tangerine, it just feels like the spiritual sequel to Silver.
Yeah.
But in the best way possible. It is the absolute, like, it's not one of those things where it's like, you can listen to one immediately after the other and you can be like, okay, like they follow along the same sort of path to get to where they get to in this song. But it feels different. It feels separate, but it adds almost to Silver in a lot of ways, I feel like. And the strings are part of that. Like, it just feels like the spiritual successor. And that's actually, I had the same thought of a Sloan song, which it's escaping me right now as I bring up a specific example of this, Jason. That's okay. Money City Maniacs, released off of Navy Blues, and then off of a later album, Never Hear the End of It, they had Ill Placed Trust. And it's two Patrick Pentland songs that it feels like Ill Placed Trust is kind of like the sort of successor to Money City Maniacs in a lot of ways. But anyways, I bring that up, Jason, only for myself. That is an example only for me. But it feels like it gave me the same vibes. It gave me the exact same vibes. And it's a thought that I've only just now considered, which is why it was so clumsily put together and not prepared at all, like everything else I have meticulously crafted notes for. But in any case, Jason, it does feel like a bit of a spiritual successor to Silver. So I just vibed with Tangerine, but I love Baby Skin Tattoo. That's a great rocker. Ophelia, any song named Ophelia, I'm automatically in for. And then Creature, again, has the horns, but ultimately Tangerine.
I think too with Tangerine coming right out of Disco Days, which is such a really just haunting. Showcases Kevin Young, like absolutely. But and I think it actually transitions well. I'm a little surprised that Tangerine actually wasn't the first single off the album. It was actually the third, with Leave It Alone and Resurrection coming before it. But I get the feeling that if you have a song that sounds so much like it could have fit on Silver, maybe you don't want to lead off that and you want to come out with something a little different, because Creature is a bit of a different beast unto itself. Funny thing about Baby Skin Tattoo. So, of course, if you got one of the Big Shiny Tunes albums, it said, okay, cool, Ophelia is the song on this disc. On my copy, it isn't. Oh, on the very first Big Shiny Tunes album, it says Ophelia on the card, right? On the cover, the back cover, right? It says Ophelia on the actual disc itself. You get to that song like, all right, cool, let's hear some Moist. Like, this isn't Ophelia, this is Baby Skin Tattoo. Which I find funny because Ophelia is actually my pick off of this.
Wow, there we go. Okay.
So I am avenging my Big Shiny Tunes CD. Much Music needs to give me a brand new copy with the right song on it. I mean, nothing against Baby Skin Tattoo. I just find Ophelia is just, it's that open palm muting intro and just adds such a big energy build to it. I think this song has actually the best guitar riffs on the disc. Cello solo just sings on it. Like they really leaned into the strings off of this. And I think that makes this a much more lush album than Silver, even though Silver's a more front to back collection of greatness.
I kind of remarked this more with Silver. And again, Jason, like this is going to point back to the idea that I really wasn't overly familiar with Moist. They have such a much more fuller sound and more polished sound than I was prepared for. And that was right out of the gate with Silver. Like I wasn't prepared for it to be what it was, because I kind of like, when we had the idea of this band and this episode, I was like, okay. And I listened to Push, I think was the song I listened to. And like, you get an idea of what they are, but you don't get the full scope with Push, I don't think, at least not to the level that you get it off of some other songs. And again, the additional music, the added, horns, strings, whatever, that adds layers to it that, again, it just adds to the fact that, these guys are just musicians, man. They aren't like, they aren't pigeonholed as one specific genre. It feels like they're kind of a little bit, they have their feet in a lot of different ponds, it feels like, Jason.
Yeah. And I think the nomination for Paul Northfield for his work on this disc as a producer is definitely, winning actually the award. It sounds like a band that knows what they're doing in the studio. Like Silver's a good collection of songs, and it's not raw, it's not polished, it's right in the middle.
Yeah.
Creature sounds like a fantastic studio creation. I mean, they had the songs, there was no question there, but just the building out of them, adding the horns, adding the strings, adding so much more to it, it sounds like a much more polished album.
Yeah.
Mercedes 5 and Dime, released June 29th, 1999, hit number 4 in Canada and is platinum. There were 4 singles off of this one. Breathe charted the highest, hitting number 28 in Canada and number 5 on the Canadian rock alt-rock charts. And at the 2000 Junos, it's Canadian, it counts, nominated Best Group but lost to the Matthew Good Band. They were nominated for Best Rock Album but lost to Beautiful Midnight by the Matthew Good Band. And Underground was nominated for Best Video but lost to So Pure by Alanis Morissette. Well, if you're going to lose to Alanis Morissette, I guess.
Oh my gosh.
I guess. Again, the 90s in Canada and music was fantastic. But this album takes a major left turn at Albuquerque in sound, whereas Creature was, Silver was hard-hitting, Creature was big and bombastic. Mercedes 5 and Dime, this is a much more mellow album.
Yep. And Jason, I got to be completely honest with you, man. And I'm going to create more work for you right now. And I apologize for that ahead of time. I love this album. This album was unbelievable, man. I wasn't prepared for this. I was not prepared for this at all in any way, shape, or form. I was fully prepared for Silver to be what it was and for it to sound as it did throughout. And I was ready for that. The vibe of this album was unbelievable. And man, I'm at a loss, Jason. I'm fully at a loss because I just wasn't at all. This was not on my radar that this was going to be like, we get to this point in, a five album run, you're middle of the road. You're kind of thinking, okay, like, and it's also bear in mind of where we're at in terms of like, this is the turn of, we're at in 99 going towards 2000. There's different influences here. And how is that going to impact what they're doing? Are they going to be influenced by other things that are happening? How is that all going to sort of manifest itself? It did in the best way possible, Jason. I love this album.
Yeah. I mean, you take a look at the music landscape. It's all boy bands and new metal at this point, right?
Exactly.
Just go watch the Woodstock 99 documentary. You'll get an exact idea of exactly what, music listeners were dealing with. And then they come out with this very moody, almost smoky kind of dive bar kind of vibe, and, obviously the Canadian album cover, that blue cover, fits the mood exactly. The alternate cover in the US was actually a bright yellow one, which doesn't feel like the album at all. You want that moody blue on that. So off of this disc, which some can consider to be divisive, and I say that because coming out of Silver and Creature, you're looking for that moist sound, and this is very different. And again, similar to what I mentioned with Seven Mary 3, where it's like, here's all the rock and here's all the quiet stuff, right?
Yeah.
I love Rock Crown. Rock Crown is my favorite Seven Mary 3 album, even though I recognize that their biggest songs come before it. So there is a lot of good on this disc. Just be prepared for it to not sound like the first two albums. Off of this disc, your pick.
It was a heavyweight tilt, man. Absolute heavyweight tilt between Breathe and Mike Hammer. I was back and forth so many times. I didn't really even know which way. And honestly, Dogs was kind of in the mix there too, because Dogs, I was immediately like, I love the softer sound to this one. It feels like a completely different vibe from what we got on the two previous records. And I was 100% in for it. But then when Breathe picks up right after Dogs, I'm like, I can't not go with this song. And ultimately it is the song that I went with because the harmonies, man, again, this is a running theme for any episode that I've appeared on. It tickles my brain. I love it. I need it. Harmonies. And this is my favorite type of song as well. Just the structure of how this song works. That slow, understated build into a powerful, triumphant ensemble chorus. That's the good stuff. That is everything that you want out of a song. It is, I wasn't prepared, Jason. I was very unprepared for this album to hit the way that it did for me. But I think it's of any of the albums that they have, it is, I think, the most likely for me to go back and re-listen to over again and just try to find all the different little things that I missed the first time through. I love it, man. I think, again, as you said, and it's hard when you're a band like this. And we kind of talked about this with the Paramore episode, right? When you're known for this kind of thing, right? This one specific, people love Riot and they want every Paramore album to be Riot. And then there's a portion of the fan base that loves, like me, After Laughter. Different, completely different.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to, toe that in line of, being loyal to what it is that you're known for, but at the same time expanding as an artist. And I think they did it in a way where obviously it's kind of a little bit more acoustic, a little bit softer, but it's still enough of what they are that it still kind of exists in that same world. But I understand how this album is a little bit divisive.
Yeah. Although that being said, it does feel like the perfect lead in to David Usher's eventual solo career.
Yes.
So clearly that's kind of where he's at that point where, the songs that he's writing. There's 2 sections on this album. And yeah, Underground and Dogs, it's not the strongest intro to the full disc. Breathe definitely picks it up, but there's 2 points on this album, and it's 2 back-to-back songs each time where it's like, oh, this is where the good stuff is. Right around the middle of the disc, you've got Tonight and Alive, and both of those are on my short list.
Right.
But then you get to the end, and you get Liberation and Deliver Me. And even though there's like that weird stray kind of high-pitched frequency in Deliver Me, which I can't necessarily hear because my hearing is for crap because I'm a musician. But I find Deliver Me to be one of those really good Moody songs. But I ended up going with Liberation. And it's kind of like a toss-up between the two. But Liberation, to me, feels like that Creature era kind of moist song. And yeah, maybe it's what you're looking for at the time. Maybe it's the mood. I guess it really is the mood. Because Deliver Me, I could take any day if I'm in the right mood. Liberation feels like an any mood kind of song for me.
Yeah. Jason, and this is also completely unrelated to everything you just said. I just want to point out I love the name. And I don't mean that as a way of dismissing anything you just said, because it was excellent.
It's very much the Loki. Yes. Very sad. Anyways.
Yeah. I like that there's songs that are named Pleasing Falsetto, which is accurate to what the song gets to. And there's also a song just called Mandolin. That to me is amazing. But no, you're absolutely right though about Liberation, Deliver Me. I am there with you on that front. I just wanted to add those unrelated things because I wanted just to shout out those 2 songs, not specifically for their strength and relative to this entire album, but it was just very funny names.
Glory Under Dangerous Skies, released October 7th, 2014. That's right. 15 years after their last album. We have a few member changes at this point. Paul Wilcox is out now. Francis Fillion is on drums. Jeff Pierce actually left during the recording, so Louis Lalancette was on bass. Jonathan Gallivan joined on the guitar, and the album was produced by guitarist Mark McAway. Hit number 8 on the Canadian charts. There were 2 singles off of this one. Mechanical hit number 3 on the Canadian rock and alt rock charts. So we get a 15-year break from Moist. David Usher's doing his solo career, and then they come out with this album, and this feels like the spiritual sequel to Creature.
Well, you know what, Jason? I'll just say one thing. It definitely didn't dry up. They stayed moist over the
They did stay moist.
They stayed very moist.
Oh, dear God.
We went a long time without anything. We said moist a lot of times without anything. I think that we earned one. We got one.
Every half hour we have to make a moist joke. Okay, cool. Not a problem. But no, like, that's the thing. Like, after 15 years, you're like, is Moist ever going to come back? And sometimes you sit there and you kind of mentally write off the band, right? Knowing that they've just gone different ways. And then occasionally a band comes back together. It's like, wait a second, they're still back and they sound fantastic. This is the Candlebox episode all over again, right? They do 3 albums, they break up and then they come back together with slightly different lineup, and those albums are fantastic. This, I know you loved Mercedes 5 and Dime. This kind of gets back to that Moist sound, but what were your thoughts on this disc?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It definitely was a little bit more of, again, like I was so into Mercedes 5 and Dime that I was prepared for that just to be the evolution of what this band was going to be. And ultimately, like, I think they did a good job of sort of, again, towing that line, which is a difficult thing to do because, you obviously have influences and you brought up, sort of Usher's solo career, and then that brings a different element to it entirely. So I shouldn't say Usher because then that sounds a lot like just Usher, the R&B singer.
I was going to say we're no longer Canadian rock.
Yeah,
we're R&B.
We're in a completely different sphere right now. But in any case, no. But like you can tell when there's bands that like they have that influence where they want to sort of veer off in a certain direction, and you can appreciate it, but then also you want things to be as they were. I think everybody has that. Nostalgia is a powerful drug, man. It just is.
Well, it's like from the Sloan episode, right? They had that break and then they come back and that album felt like the album that they wanted to go back and play live with. Same thing with the Northern Pikes. They take a break, they come back punching hard with like some good live style material.
Yeah, absolutely. So this one was a bit of a in-betweener one for me. It was a bit of a slower burn to get to what I was looking for, but I could appreciate all the song. Like again, like Mechanical comes out and that is everything you want out of an opener. Like that is like straight to the point. Like we're getting after it. But ultimately, coming around to it, as it went on, Comes the Sun was one that was on my short list because the vocals on the hook are incredible. Really fun ensemble performance. That at this point, it's just expected that you're going to get that. Everybody is on point. Everyone's doing what they need to do. It was the last song on. It was All Forgiven. This is what I wanted, man. This is what I was here for after Mercedes 5 and Dime. The piano shines more here than any other song that I could, remember on this album when I was listening through it. It was just completely, on point as it always was with, as it always is with Kevin Young. Kind of became over the course of this entire catalog. It was just like, yeah, Kevin, man, he's killing it again. But yeah, I was fully into the sort of softer sound of Mercedes 5 and Dime. So I was kind of waiting for it to get to a point where that was where things were going to go. And it kind of took until the very end. And again, it's not to say anything of the previous songs. They're all great. They're moist. They're again, they haven't dried up yet. But All Forgiven is just a banger tune, just a solid way of closing out an album as well.
Yeah, this is a fantastic album all the way through and a great return to the sound that brought them to the forefront. It was hard to pick, though. I mean, Mechanical is a fantastic song. I liked your idea of Comes the Sun. All Forgiven is on my short list. Black Roses is definitely on my short list.
Yeah,
but I'm undecided right now. I have a 2-song smackdown right now, and it's not. Both of them are very different from each other, and so it's very much a mood thing. I haven't actually decided what my song is going to be at this point. This is how bad this show treats me sometimes because you have that knockdown, drag out fight. So in the one corner, I have Broken. This was the second song on the disc. It should have been a single because it felt like a single. Mechanical and Black Roses were the singles released, and they very much deserve to be singles. Broken could have fit in there. But then on the other side, I've got Still I Won't Look Down. And there's such a power behind that. Like, I remember because I listened to this album in the car on the way to work while I was prepping for this show. And I went back and forth like between these two songs. And by the time I got to work, and I still hadn't decided. And then like a week later, I get here to recording and I still haven't decided. And as much as I love Broken, because the harmonies are freaking on point on this one, they are as well. And Still I Won't Look Down. And I think that's the one I'm going to go with. And I say that because it's such a big song. It feels like the kind of song you would end a show with before, the lights go down and you come back out and you do Silver as an encore kind of thing, because that's what you would do.
That's 100%.
Yeah. Still I Won't Look Down is such a big, almost cinematic song. And I think it's one of their most cinematic songs so far to this point. Yes, I'm sure you could do a very cool black and white kind of avant-garde indie kind of movie with the entire album Mercedes 5 and Dime, but Still I Won't Look Down. It's a big cinematic end credit scene that just needs to be in a movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely on it. And I will say again, the production value, I mean, throughout the entire catalog, but I think you're absolutely right about this album specifically too. Even though it didn't necessarily hit for me until the last, it was still like you could appreciate the production value of all of these songs and everything. Again, it all circles back to the ensemble performance because everybody is on point in every song. The harmonies are incredible. The individual performances melding together sort of in perfect unison. Like it's on point.
The next album is a 2022 release. And of course, that is smack dab in the middle of the pandemic. But before we actually get to that album, I hope you're listening to this episode over on our website, notthatbadcast.com, on the actual episode page. Because during the pandemic, let me trace this back to 2020, as much as people don't want to go back to that year. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau comes out and he's doing one of his press conferences, and he is talking about things that we can do in order to be able to kind of help each other get through the pandemic. And he says the term speaking moistly. And then he realizes what he just said and said, that's a pleasant thought. And right, it's a funny moment. It was a funny moment during that time. And of course, Moist, being the moist band that they are, actually, David Usher got a string quartet to record their parts virtually, and they did an orchestral version of Speaking Moistly. That video, if you're not watching on our website right now, if you're not listening on our website, I'm going to put the link to that video on the website, because holy crap, it is the best. Know exactly the moment that song is needed. Because there were dance remixes. Someone did a dance remix of the whole Speaking Moistly press conference, and it became a bit of a viral hit. And then Moist comes out and they're like, yeah, hold my beer.
Hold on a second.
Hold my moist beer. We're about to do something that's going to make you love this even more. And I love that for them. I think that's awesome.
I mean, definitely to capitalize on the moment and to understand, like, that is huge. I completely wiped my mind at that, Jason. I forgot about the speaking moistly thing. That is, oh, dude, such a Canadian. Like, I mean, of all of those ones too, because he had that one, and then there was the one where he had to go back inside and get his jacket, and it was just like the way. Oh man, those press conferences were wild. But anyway, no, that is, I have to watch that now because I knew nothing of this.
It's on Moist's actual YouTube channel. Go and watch it if you haven't. It's a little slice of Canadian humor in a weird time, and yet it's still funny for those who live through it.
When we needed it the most, they were there.
Exactly.
We needed it the moist. They were there.
Oh God,
that's awful. Don't cut it. Cut it.
End of the Ocean, released January 14th, 2022. Jeff Pierce now back on bass. There were 3 singles off of this one: Tarantino, Bullet Kill, Sex Love Thrill, End of the Ocean, and Put the Devil on It. And unfortunately, none of them actually charted. So this is, so far, the last Moist album. We don't know if there's another one going to come out, because this was 8 years after the release of Glory Under Dangerous Skies. And of course, David Usher was still putting out solo music at the time. This one kind of dives back towards that Mercedes 5 and Dime vibe. So did you associate well with this?
I kind of did. Yeah, I kind of did. It was one of those ones where it was like a little bit of an in-between one where, again, Ammunition, you lead off with that one. And again, I was like, I really like this. I like this sound. It feels a little bit more sort of distinct than a lot of the previous album did, at least to me. So I was kind of happy with that. And then you get Flesh and Bone, which I was like, I love the more understated sound of their softer stuff. Like, I don't know, Jason. It's we're kind of coming at this from 2 different angles, it feels like, because one of us is a hard advocate, not a hard advocate. One of us is an advocate for like like that's, and it's not that I don't like that either, because it's all of it's great regardless. But I just don't know what it is about this softer stuff. But it's just the piano shines through, like you get a little bit more. Yeah, I don't know. I love the understated sound of some of this softer stuff. So I kind of did have a little bit more of a vibe with this one than I did with the previous, with Glory Under Dangerous Skies. But it's nothing against that album either. Like it's these are all, again, they're very moist even now in 2022. So we're 2025 now, Jason, but in 2020. So we're still moist.
So we're 3 years after the release of this album. I mean, this album does showcase a bunch of songs that you would love to be able to hear acoustically. If it was just David Usher and Kevin Young on keyboards and Jeff Pierce on bass and maybe some acoustic guitar in there, put Francis Fillion up on a cajon and like let's get that kind of sound, because they do. They have, this is a multifaceted, multi-vibe kind of band, and you get a lot of that. Now, yes, this album very much feels like a pandemic album. You know, the songwriting is dialed back a little bit. The entire reason for Tarantino Bullet Kill Sex Love Thrill was that apparently during the pandemic, David Usher went on a total Tarantino binge, and this song kind of came to him. So I kind of appreciate that.
Yeah, that's a very fun rocker. So,
and it is actually my pick off of this disc. Although I did have Ammunition and The Millions as my short list. What did you go with off the disc?
2 back-to-back albums where I was, kind of like I was with everything that they were doing. It wasn't anything against any of the songs leading up to it. But the last song, man, Dying for a Light in the Dark. It is a incredible song, man. Like, this was, again, everything I was looking for. It's got a fantastic build, really makes you kind of wait for it. But even then, like, oh man, it's a great tune. So like, I was again in the position of like all of these songs I was listening to, Flesh and Bone, like I said, Put the Devil on It. I was big into that one too. It's a really good, solid tune. There's a very cool tone on the guitar, the keyboard again. That I will say, there was a part of me early in the catalog that I was kind of like, some of these keyboard parts are very almost like Blue Rodeo-esque, where it just kind of feels like they're just letting Kevin Young cook. They're just letting him go. Like, you're just letting him loose, man. And I love it. And then Dying for Light in the Dark, it just, I mean, my notes are very simple, Jason. It's just yes in all capital letters, and says fantastic build. And that's about it. That's what I was after. And it took the duration of the album, but we got there. And on the way, some really great tunes as well.
Yeah, when it comes to Moist, never sleep on those late songs.
Oh.
Sometimes, I mean, more often than not, they're punching you right in the face right off the bat.
Yeah.
But never sleep on the late songs on the disc, because Moist is going to save some of the good stuff. It's kind of like when you listen to things on cassette, right? You don't want to put everything at the front. You know, you kind of want to, even if it's halfway there, you want to be able to, skip back and then listen to the later songs on the disc.
Absolutely.
All right. So now we get to the hard part. 5 albums, 5 songs, but only one can remain. So Joseph, off of the Moist discography, remind our listeners what you picked. And if there can only be one Moist song, what's it going to be?
Yeah. So off of Silver, I went with Silver. Off of Creature, I went with Tangerine. Mercedes 5 and Dime, I went with Breathe. Glory Under Dangerous Skies, I went with All Forgiven. And End of the Ocean, I went for Dying for a Light in the Dark. Man, that title is giving me all sorts of problems, Jason. Goodness gracious. They didn't make it easy on me, did they? But in any case, I have to circle back to Mercedes 5 and Dime and go with Breathe, because I think it's a part of it, Jason, is just the thorough level of unpreparedness that I had for this album to just absolutely like sucker punch me in the face. And I liked it. It was great. That's what I wanted. I wanted this to get to a point where, again, I was finding things that I didn't know I was looking for, and they delivered it on every level. And Breathe is that song that, quite frankly, and this is the one thing I didn't say, because obviously it would kind of give away that this was going to be my pick. This song might become one of like my favorite songs, like ever, like just generally full stop. Because again, it's just that, it sounds so easy to like make a song where, oh yeah, you start slow and then everything kind of builds to a crescendo. And like, but if it was that easy, everyone would do it. And the fact that they did it so effectively and so concisely on this song with beautiful harmonies, this is just, oh man, it ticks every single box for me. So that's my pick. Silver, is a very tough one to pass up because, obviously it's Silver, but this is my song.
Yeah, I will admit it. This is a bucket list band for me, because I have yet to actually see them live. I have missed out on the couple chances because, life gets in the way and whatnot. So the next time I get a chance to, I ain't missing out, because this needs to happen. Off of Silver, I went with Break Her Down. From Creature, I went with Ophelia. Off of Mercedes 5 and Dime, I went with Liberation. From Glory Under Dangerous Skies, it was a really hard, pick to make, but I ended up going with Still I Won't Look Down. And off of End of the Ocean, I went with Tarantino, Bullet Kill, Sex, Love, Thrill. But if there can only be one moist song, I think I'm going to go with Ophelia. And there's something so hard hitting about this one. And maybe because I'm still kind of ticked that I wanted it on my Big Shiny Tunes disc, but I got Baby Skin Tattoo. But I mean, it really is a toss up between Ophelia and Still I Won't Look Down, even though I think Silver is the more complete album. But those songs really stand out. But yeah, no, it's Ophelia for me, unless I'm feeling kind of moody. Then it'll probably be Still I Won't Look Down. Joseph, thank you so much for this. Now, remind our listeners out there where they can find you out there on the interwebs and what you've been up to.
Well, you can find me on Instagram at Joseph Whalen 17, and I'm over on X at Joe Whalen 19. And I've been traveling, Jason. I've been out there. I've been doing stuff. And so right now I'm just keeping the head down, going to work, and then occasionally listening to some very incredible albums at your request for this fine podcast.
See, here I am just spreading the moist word as I can.
Here we go. Yep. We have to bookend it.
One last one for the road. All right, Joseph, thank you so much. And to you, our dear listeners, well, you guys know the drill. If there's an artist that you want us to cover on There Can Only Be One, or an album that you want us to cover on Spin Shuffle Skip, hit us up on social media at OnlyOneCast or go to our website at notthatbadcast.com. And while you're there, make sure you check out our merch section. Until next time, he's Joseph, I'm Jay. You guys are awesome. This is There Can Only Be One, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network. Take care.